Hello everyone and welcome to Grey Owl Entertainment, the podcast series where we'll be discussing general movie topics, television shows and general British media and whatever else we can think of. I am your host Kobi, and today I am joined by my good friend and co-host today, Harry.
Hello!
Okay, so getting straight into the meat of the story, no delays or whatever like last time.
Without further ado.
Yeah, unlike the pilot that we scrapped sadly, we're going to have to focus on what we've got now. So now, in the moment, with some new news out, we can discuss our three topics today, which will be highlighting what we know so far on Series 11 of Doctor Who. We will then be going on to our discussions and thoughts on Avengers Infinity War, which is going to be releasing on DVD soon. And our final topic of today will be discussing Harry Potter and our thoughts and hopes for the latest Fantastic Beasts sequel, The Crimes of Grindelwald. So, Harry, what were your thoughts on the latest trailers for the new season of Doctor Who?
Well, yeah, so we got two trailers for Doctor Who. We got the initial teaser, which was a short little clip of each of the companions and the Doctor, and then the actual proper trailer from Comic-Con. So, my opinion on the actual teaser trailer, it was quite a sort of nothing trailer. It was just sort of it could have been just a slideshow of images, because it was literally just like space stuff happening around the characters, and then the Doctor was there at the end. It was more of like someone said that, like a comment on it. Someone said it was more like a food advert than anything, because it just had like lots of slow motion shots of people eating like breakfast and stuff, which is quite funny.
Yeah. Classic British meals. We know you love them.
Yeah, just people in a pub eating a full English or something. That was what that trailer was.
Full English is great.
I mean,
full English.
Yeah, this is true. It was a pretty good advert, actually. But the trailer, I didn't really get much out of it, because I saw it only when it came out a couple of weeks ago or a week ago, and I've honestly forgotten most of the things. It wasn't that memorable, but I guess I do need to give it a couple more watches, and I'll actually put it on now. I'm not going to spend time doing it, but I'll put it on now and have a quick look. And do you want to tell me your quick opinions on it?
Yeah. In regards to the first teaser that we got, I didn't mind it, because at the end of the day it was advertised to be a teaser, but at the same time they built it up, which is my big frustration, because they said like 2 days or a day in advance that there's there's a trailer coming for the new season of Doctor Who, and it got everyone hyped as it would have. And when it came down to like the 40-second clip or something, I just felt like I was expecting more, especially if you guys were building this up for a few days. And I can understand that to some people, they should have, because we've had no Doctor Who's since the last time we had like Christmas of last year, and understandably they've been keeping the latest season on wraps and very secretive. So it's understandable in some regards that they want to reinvigorate interest in the show, but at the same time I feel like that's what the teaser's for. So I feel like they should have left it as it was and maybe given us a surprise like on the Saturday it came out or something. And as for it itself, I didn't mind it, as you can say and point out. It clearly is not the best. Because I honestly think out of all the trailers we've gotten for Doctor Who in terms of teasers, I think the best one we got was that Time Vortex intro teaser for the Series 5.
Oh, is that the first Matt Smith one? Yeah,
the one where him and
that was really
Amy
good.
Are falling through the vortex.
Yeah, like when they're lying on the floor on the grass and it opens up and then they're just sort of flying around. That's the one, right?
Yeah, I remember my parents grabbing me from my room and saying, "Oh, Matt, there's a new teaser for Doctor Who out," and I can remember just sitting in the front room watching it in awe for the first time and thinking, "Oh, cool, I like this already."
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I just had a rewatch of the actual trailer. Yeah, it didn't have much in it. It was just lots of like shots of the landscape, pretty much the entire thing. There was no like monsters or creatures or any threat. So far.
Yeah, that's the second teaser.
Yeah.
And going into that one as well, I didn't mind it, but at the same time, I also felt cheated a bit, because I think that's the main thing that everyone's been feeling about these latest teasers so far. They've not really delivered what you'd expect, and that you can take that in a good way and a bad way, because on the one hand, it's still being kept secretive, and at the end of the day, it's just the teasers are literally just advertisements for the series in terms of its cinematography and its cast.
Yeah, well, it does look very nice. Like it looks a step up from the last couple of series with like actual cinematography and stuff.
it definitely feels like there's a new feel behind it, and that's kind of what we've expected and wanted for a while. And I commend them for that, but at the same time, I feel like they should have been a bit more ambitious, or maybe a bit more confident, or maybe just a bit more daring to say, so here's a taster.
Yeah.
It's not like the glimpse that we get. It's just like, give us a taste of the monsters, the feels, the story, maybe. I can understand they want to keep the series arc over wraps, whatever the story arc's going to be. But at the same time, I feel like it'd be good to give the audience, or especially the people who never watched Doctor who will be coming into this show for the first time, because this show is intended to apparently be another fresh start, like it did back in 2005, and again with Matt's era in 2010. So you kind of feel like they'd want to sell, okay, so why should we watch this show?
Yeah.
Because it's got a good story to it, not because we've got a woman in the role of this previously male lead before, or we've got good cinematography. So I feel like they should have tried to sell the story or make it more interesting as opposed to just cool shots and cool actors.
Yeah, you do raise a good point that it's not a particularly good trailer because it doesn't give pretty much anything away. It just has the characters who we already knew were there, and then a couple of like shots of deserts which aren't particularly interesting. But it does look like Chris Chibnall has just brought his crew over from Broadchurch into this, like with the same sort of look of it, the same like tone, like visually. But there's not really any Doctor Who-esque stuff we see necessarily. Like there's nothing that screams Doctor Who in this trailer.
Yeah, and that doesn't have to be a problem, because honestly, I just finished season 2 of Broadchurch and I love it. And I went through the first 2 seasons thinking, God, and this guy's going to be writing Doctor Who. And I can remember thinking, had I watched this when it first aired, I probably would have thought, oh god, I wish Doctor Who was like this, taken seriously, taken with such intensive care. You feel like it's just like, this is what a fan would dream of, to have the show of Doctor Who be like, and now we are getting that. But in terms of the marketing wise, I feel like they didn't do a good job in setting up the anticipation, especially for newcomers who haven't a clue what the show is about or what this season will be about. You know that from recent reports that it's been advertised, it was said at Comic-Con that Chibnall described the series will be hopeful and fizzled with wonder. Well, but it might have been Jodie Whittaker who said that, but essentially one of the staff cast members, whatever, they said that, and immediately my head goes to Matt Smith's first season. And I'm not gonna lie, looking back on it, I wasn't a fan of the Smith era starting off. It wasn't until I got a bit more mature and older that I kind of look back on it and think it wasn't bad for what it was, because when you look at what it came before and what they had to achieve, they got the best result that they could have worked with. But again, at the time I was young and I was going into all that phase of young adults where I wanted things to be cool and mature and mysterious and have those levels of interest, whereas fantasy and whimsical wasn't really my thing back then. And I admit, I'm still a bit iffy on the idea of Doctor Who primarily focusing on the hopeful and fantasy and wonderful sides of it. Because he had an interview like last year promoting his final episode of the series, and he basically said along the lines of, oh, Doctor Who is meant to be a fairy tale, it's meant to be a show where people can be hopeful and have wonder and believe that, oh, this man is not a murderer, he's not a killer, he won't destroy a planet, or this is a world where people can have second chances, people don't die. And I feel like you can't really do that. I just feel like, from what's come before, you kind of feel like, how could you kind of think saying that when... lost now. But yeah, that's the thing about that first podcast, they always tend to fuck up and eventually. But yeah, I'm not really a fan of the entire series going forward being hopeful and wonderful, because I hope there is a level of maturity to it, because say what you will about the Peter Capaldi era, but it started off very differently, and I enjoyed that. It definitely brought my interest in the show back to a degree. Continuing on, it did go a bit bad again, but there was that level of awareness that they understood that they needed to evolve outside of the Matt Smith era, and I liked that, and I hope that they can kind of continue that, because again, I guess people kind of assumed that since the team behind Broadchurch is doing this, they would be carrying over that sense of maturity and mystery, but again, you kind of feel like from a story standpoint and from a show standpoint, Doctor Who's always been a family show, so they can get away with certain things, but they can't get away with amping up the age range or trying to pander to certain demographics like Broadchurch, because that's not how it works. That's not how TV industries work, which is a shame, because I feel like Doctor Who has so many cool concepts they can work with. I mean, so many YouTubers have already pointed this out, but the Cybermen alone are a great example of why Doctor Who is so restrained, because you have the concept of humans basically being mutilated to become cyborgs, and the details when you listen to the audio dramas. I mean, have you listened to Spare Parts by Big Finish?
I haven't listened to anything by Big Finish.
That's how you're missing out. But in that specific story, it is so adamant and true to how the Cybermen are portrayed, and it really does kind of make you feel like, wow, God, these really are monsters, and they don't care. I mean, in short, I just feel like Doctor Who has such potential in so many weird and mysterious and scary areas, but they can't explore that too much because of the range that it was a show always intended for kids, in general for families, which I don't mind, because again, I would have gotten into it if it hadn't been a kids show. But at the same time, you kind of feel like you want the show to grow with you, and I feel like Doctor Who can sometimes be restrained from that. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it does look like this series is going to be much sort of, I don't know, I guess a more adult-ish sort of more vibe to it, as opposed to the last couple of series. But I know what you're saying about the about Capaldi's era, sort of starting off different, but then sort of going back to sort of silliness. And yeah. I personally like the silly stuff. Like, lots of people don't like the silly stuff for Capaldi, but I think that's what makes him a sort of. That's what sort of makes him like more and more alien, because he has to be an alien, doesn't he? Because the Doctor's not human. But
I can understand that bit about being an alien, and they have to change and evolve. But at the same time, you expect them to have some progression into that. And for me personally, I never got that, because you have the whole of season 8 where he's essentially just being this cold-hearted, blunt, elderly man, elderly grandfather figure, and I liked that because again, not only is it callback to the first Doctor and during his early years of being the grumpy stage old man, but again, it kind of puts an emphasis that this is a different Doctor that we had before. He's not the charming runner like David. He's not the whimsical kid trapped in a man's body like Matt, and he wasn't the war veteran like Eccleston. He's an aged man with a past, and he has a history, but he knows about it, and he's not afraid of it.
Yeah.
He has his demons, but he's not afraid to admit that, yeah, I was in the Time War, I fought during the war, and I've faced demons, now I have to face those again.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
I liked that.
Yeah.
I mean, I always kind of had the idea that had Peter stuck with that tone, his era could have defined a return to form for the Heathcliff era with Tom Baker, where they focused on a lot of gothic horror stories, and they have their silly moments too, but you kind of fit to the sense that they're trying to take a different approach to the gadget years of the Pertwee era. But as you said, instead they either got scared or they didn't do well in toy sales or something, so they ended up going back to the old format. And jarringly, the first episode we have Peter just draped in all clothes that clearly scream that, I want to be like the kids, I want to be hip, I want to wear a jumper, I want to wear sunglasses, I want to have a guitar. And I do know that the guitar was something special to Peter, because he was a guitarist in his early years before he became an actor. So I can understand that bit, and maybe they could have worked that in somehow. But the fact that they come out of nowhere saying, he's cool now, I just got the sense that, no, this is not earned, and even if it is earned, I still wouldn't have liked it, because this is not what came before. So I don't know.
But yeah, I think what we should do now is, because we've talked about Capaldi for a bit too long, we should move. We should talk about someone about the coming up Doctor Who. So, what do you think about Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor?
On first impressions, when I first heard about the casting, I was surprised and a bit concerned, because again, we can talk about all the stuff that everyone else talks about these days in terms of, it's a woman now, it's a big risk. It's not. People can say that all they want. At the end of the day, it's just casting. As long as they do it justice, I'm happy. But it's more my concern with the writers and the handling of it, because especially during the Moffat era, there was a sense that a lot of the female cast were relegated to being the top. And that's not a bad thing, but at the same time, you kind of feel like there has to be a level of restraint, because it is the show about Doctor Who. And this became a bit more apparent for me when I saw Clara's progression, because it's the potential storyline of Clara being this control freak who becomes obsessed with her life traveling with the Doctor. That's an interesting take on it. But because they put so much emphasis on her to begin with, without Ernst, I mean, when you go back to her first season, she's just bland. She's a bland character because they just had this mystery focused on her, and they wanted a new companion for the 50th era. And I just feel like they messed up. They made a big misstep there, and get lost again.
Yeah, I don't think Clara's got really anything to do with like the.
Scratch all that.
Oh, I could have brought it back.
Sorry.
Stop talking about stuff, old stuff. We need to talk about new stuff. Don't talk about Clara.
Can't help it. I hate Clara so much. But yeah, okay. So back to the Doctor. I was concerned at first, and that's mainly to do with the writers, because in today's media we have a lot of problems with things like The Last Jedi being a big example of there was an agenda behind certain members of Lucasfilm to make certain things stand out more for the new Star Wars films going forward, and that hurt the film. And other things I can't think of off the top of my head, but other projects recently have also become under fire for trying to push that agenda. And I feel like I don't want Doctor Who to go down the same path, because the show has endured for 55 years as of this year, and it's been enduring for like 13 years as of this year as well.
Yeah, the new Who.
Yeah, so I feel like it's done good this far, and they've always held a level of subtlety to their topics when it comes to that.
Well, I mean, not in Capaldi's era.
No.
They have had lots of that sort of anti-men sort of things. But I mean, I think I don't think it has anything to do with her being a woman. I think that we should loads of people have already, like you said, loads of people have already talked about that. I think it's just they cast her because she's a good actor, but I haven't seen her in anything. I know she's in Broadchurch. I know she's in like Black Mirror and stuff, and apparently she's a very good actress or actor.
Oh, she is.
So,
she's got a variety of, in just 2 seasons, she's got a variety of emotions that just really sell her as an actress in general. When half the time she has anger scenes, crying scenes, and all that jazz that comes with a family.
So she's like a broad actor doing lots. She could do lots of different things rather than just the same old stuff over and over again.
Yeah, I think she can. Again, that's not fully adamant in Broadchurch, because she has a variety, but she's not using every emotion. She doesn't have every variety in the box checked. But
yeah,
she's done good enough, and she's won me over with those first 2 seasons at least. And I think that she's a good choice. I'm just hoping that the team behind it have a good sense of restrainment, because Moffat clearly didn't, and he either didn't or he clearly didn't care, at least by the end of his era, because I just feel like he just yeah, that's all I have to say, but I don't want to go into the tangent really. He just didn't care by the end, and it was really adamant with things like Bill saying, "Oh, I'm a girl, I'm gay." Is that probably...
I don't think that was a specific line, but I can see what you mean.
Yeah, I know, but it's not print by print that, but you kind of got the impression after they mentioned it that like 8 episodes out of the 12 episodes every season, and I just feel like you don't need that to make the show different or to make a message stand. I mean, I remember reading I think it was a Den of Geeks review of Doctor Who in general, like back in 2015, and it talked about how a lot of the female leads present of the companions have taken front center stage, and a lot of the male companions have been reserved to just being the bumbling sidekick, the widow,
yeah,
the husband to the girl.
I think
the companion.
Recently they've sort of done better with that. Oh, I guess with Rory specifically they did well with that, because Rory was a good character, but like
Rory's a good character.
Yeah, but like Danny Pink was like, he was a bit of a behind the scenes sort of naff character.
Yeah, he was enough to begin with, but Rory, I can understand. Even Mickey, because they do become great characters, but you can't deny that they started off, and even when they did become awesome, there's still that level of, yeah, you're just here because you're the boyfriend or the husband or the character that makes people laugh. They like you, but you're still there just because you laugh. You're not the companion. And I feel like Doctor Who doesn't need to allow that constantly, which is why I was very adamant when Peter left Clara, and when he was going to get a new companion, I thought, please, I hope it's a male. I hope it's a student like Susan again, and maybe we could have that cool student-teacher dynamic. And we did kind of get that.
Yeah.
And in Bill, and
I love Bill. Bill's great.
She's not bad for a one-season companion. She did good. I just feel like she could have been so much better, especially because, again, the fact that one of her big standout tropes was, "Oh, I'm gay."
Yeah, but that is a very good sort of segue into the next Doctor Who topic of the new companions. So, what is your opinions on them? So I know, from the top of my head, I can look it up, but my sort of the big thing of this is that Bradley Walsh is one of the three new companions. So I really like Bradley Walsh. He's a really funny he's a funny person on like The Chase and stuff. But he can do like serious actors on is it like Touch of Frost or whatever he does. He's a very good actor as well. So what do you think of the new? I'll look up the name of the other ones. But what do you think of the new companions as of now?
Yeah, and for people in general, we know that Bradley Walsh will be playing Graham O'Brien, Mapid Gill. Again, sorry if I can't spell their names correctly, but hey, what can you do? Mapid Gill will be playing Yasmin, and Tosin Cole will be playing Ryan. And we do know from certain reports, I believe, that Yasmin is playing a cop, and it's possible that Ryan could also be a cop. He could be a partner, maybe.
I think they're going to be three different like people who come together because of the Doctor. I don't think they're going to be initially tied together at the beginning.
Yeah, I would like that, really, because I think when they were announced, we kind of got the impression that they were going to be a family unit again. And I feel like Doctor Who doesn't need to rely on families all the time.
But can I tell you why I don't think they are going to be related to each other? Because from the teaser trailer,
other than the obvious.
Yeah. But other than the teaser, no, but like related as in they don't know each other. One of the things in the teaser trailer, I reckon that was all supposed to be set at the same time, and they're all in different places doing different stuff at dinner time, specifically. But I think that they're going to be brought together. And I think that's what the teaser was sort of implying, because there was sort of this energy around those people who only saw it, and the other people didn't. And then the Doctor was there, so I think the Doctor is going to draw all three of them together somehow, and that'll probably be in the first or second episode of the series that them all come together.
That, or it was just a good advertising for cinematography. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like episode 1 has got to be the big setup with, okay, here's the characters, here's the cast, here's what they are, and here's
the new Doctor. Yeah,
because I have heard apparently that, so we do know, of course, sorry, that every episode thus far will be a standalone of sorts. Then we don't know if there's going to be a recurring storyline settled throughout.
There probably will be.
There is. Yeah, I hope there is.
There usually is.
But we do know that every episode going into this season will be standalone and have a single story at least.
Well, that's good.
And I'm not going. Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be good because it's going to be classic Doctor Who, where it's different episode, different story each time, rather than like. My specific example is Torchwood. So Torchwood did that. They were like doing the classic Doctor Who. Each episode is different, but then they sort of did their own. The entire story, the entire series is one story, and that didn't work. They can't really do that with this one because it's like if like how each movie is like big franchise of movies, like say the Marvel movies. They are all a different story that connects together, rather than like each one being the same, overarching theme. It'd be a bit naff if it was just like that. But like they can't. Doctor Who, I don't think, can do a running. Each episode is based on the same story, like a soap or something. I don't think that would work for Doctor Who.
Yeah, but you're forgetting this though, that Doctor Who is a show that is famous for its cliffhangers. I think Wingy Media might have brought this up at one point. Great guy, you should check them out, by the way, guys. But shameless promotion there. But yeah, he's Doctor Who has always had a big hit with its cliffhangers, because they're always the stuff that make you go, wow, what's going to happen next? How's the Doctor going to get out of this situation? And I feel like disregarding that for a season that's meant to kind of jumpstart the series, it kind of puts them in an awkward corner where every episode has to kind of tidy up a neat story. And we saw, like, in previous seasons, when it's not done right, it can be very awkward and very disappointing and or anticlimactic.
Yeah.
I think the best example I can think of at the moment is like the Power of 3, where it's literally just, the ship's about to do something that's going to destroy the Earth. How am I going to beat this? Just whip out the Sonic. Yeah, we win.
Thing is, that was a Chibnall episode, so I mean, let's hope he doesn't do that for every episode.
Yeah, I'd like to think that the new team are not that stupid or not that lazy. I'd like to think that this is a big new step for them. They've got to take advantage of that and give it their best. So I hope that they approach it the same way they did like with the first season. But
yeah.
I am a bit iffy about there being no two-parters, because again I do love the idea of. I always envisioned like the big the two-part final to be this big stinger of like, how's the Doctor going to get out of this situation? And it's one of those genuine like, how is this going to be salvageable? How are we going to be able to save this situation? But if they are sticking to the solo episodes for every 10 episode, I feel like it's going to be different, good or bad. I don't know, but I don't know. I'm a bit iffy about it in general. But overall, really, I feel like just in general with the new season and what we know so far, I just feel like there's highs. There's a lot of good stuff that we know is going to happen, and that there's a lot of stuff that we hope will happen. But there's also bits and bits here and there that are just like nuggets of concerns that make me feel like, I hope this doesn't fail or make the series go down, because people are saying that if this season fails, they're going to cancel the show. I'd like to think they don't, because I feel like they've invested a lot of everything. They've invested a lot of resources to make this a big thing. They've got a big. They've put a lot into this new season, and I feel like they would want to make it the best they can. So I hope that these flaws and concerns don't affect the season going forward. And who knows? For all we know, the season could be great. It could be the best season we've had since season 5, season 4, whichever you prefer. For me personally, it's season 4, of course.
I like season 7.
Joy. but yeah, I'm hopeful. I have my concerns, but I'm honestly just looking forward to seeing what they can give us, and I hope we can maybe get another trailer that kind of gives us more of a sense of, this is Doctor Who back in action. What do you think? Yeah,
they definitely do need to better themselves from the last couple of series, because it has like the viewership, the viewers have declined since Capaldi started, but that's probably based on the fact he's old, but also that the series has progressively.
Charming.
Oh yeah, I know, but that is true though, because it's like, an older guy is like, I'm not going to care about this. I want someone like young and energetic like Matt Smith. But it has sort of the making of Doctor Who has declined, and the series have gotten worse. I mean, there have been very good episodes since, like in Capaldi's, like Heaven Sent. That one? Is that the good one? Yeah, that's the good one. Yeah, so that one's good. And then the other first part of the with the Cybermen and Bill becoming a Mondasian Cyberman. Yeah. The first part of that. So they are very good at doing first parts of like two-parters, but
Yeah, that was Moffat's stick. He was good at being a good setup, but when it came to the payoff, he just fell flat on his face.
Lots of the episodes did seem rushed at the end to get finished. So if I have the episode runtime, has it been increased for this series, or is it the same?
It has. They've confirmed that the new season will be running. Every episode of the new season will be running for like 15 minutes, and the opening episode will be running for 65 minutes. So it's like a full hour.
Right.
So I'm hopeful that this means we can have a bit more screen time.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like much, but I feel like this can give us the leeway we need to give more screen time to certain points in the story that need to be.
Yeah, or the conclusion can be a bit longer rather than it's finished. Good, keep going. Next episode.
So, yeah. What's happened?
Yeah. What?
I got lost. What's happening?
Yeah.
You said finished.
No, I was doing a joke.
Don't do that. You got me concerned for a second. I thought you'd.
No.
I thought you'd run out of space for you to drive.
No. It's like in Doctor Who. It's like this is finished. Let's leave. Go on the next episode. The conclusion has already been happening.
Oh, okay.
Bloody hell,
God.
mate! No, I'm not bloody quitting on you just now.
Thank God. Okay. So that's a wrap on our discussions for Doctor Who. So we can finally move on to our next big topic of today's discussion: Avengers: Infinity War, which will be coming out soon on DVD
and digital now.
Yeah. So again, I feel like this is something we should have talked about when it came out.
Yeah, it's been quite a while since I've seen it.
Yeah, me too.
I'll do my best though.
I saw it twice.
Yeah, same.
In theaters, so I kind of have an idea about most of the big things. So let's go on to our first part of this topic.
Yes.
So, what were your thoughts on the film overall?
I thought it was a very good movie. I think it's probably top 5, maybe top 3 Marvel movies. But I am very biased because my favourite character in Marvel is Doctor Strange. So that is probably why I liked it, because Doctor Strange was a very prominent part in it. But apart from Doctor Strange, every single character in this did pretty much what I expected them to do, and it was a very good. It was a good start. Like, it started well with the silenced opening logo. That was quite sort of shocking. But the person who's one fact I know about this movie, the person who was playing the Asgardian radio person, the radio caller.
Heimdall?
No, it wasn't. The person speaking, the person speaking over the opening thingy. That was Kenneth Branagh, the director of Thor, the first Thor.
Yeah, that was a nice little Easter egg.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that was good. The whole movie was.
I should say trivia.
Yeah, it was a good bit of trivia. Yeah. So the whole movie overall was I thought it was good. I liked it a lot, and the ending especially was very was a very different for Marvel, because they usually end it. I mean, spoilers for Infinity War. If you haven't seen it, go see it. Obviously. Or watch it on DVD before you bloody listen to this. Bloody hell. Yeah, because everyone dies. It's very different from Marvel, where everyone survives, and even if they do die, they come back. Except for
the big thing that Mark Ruffalo spoiled months in advance.
Yeah, I think everyone thought that was a joke. It's like, oh yeah, everyone dies. It's like, oh yeah, sure, okay, but no one believed him. Which I guess was good.
The magic of Marvel. We have people lying so much we don't bother to believe them.
Yeah.
And when it happens, we kick ourselves in the arse for not thinking it was true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think overall for me, I was going in with high expectations, and honestly, I also had a bit of extra pressure for me, because I invited my parents to see it with me, and they are never the best when it comes to movies. My dad loves them, but he's also very critical, so he was always like, it better be a good movie to get me into those theatres, because I'm not wasting money on this. Because I remember when I took him to see Justice League last year.
Why?
And I didn't have hope for that film, and I just thought, hey, he's a bit of a fan of Batman. I might as well take him to see this, and I might treat him. And we both walked away from that film just going like, what the fuck did we just watch?
We should leave the cinema right now.
Well, I should have left the cinema the moment I saw the opening.
Mate, I never went into the cinema in the first place. I haven't seen that film yet. But
don't bother. Don't waste your money. Don't buy it on DVD. Don't download it or anything.
I might pirate it. I won't do that.
Don't even do that. It's not worth it. Yeah. But I think I went to Infinity War with a lot of hype and a lot of expectations and a bit of pressure with my parents, and I left the theatre very satisfied. And honestly, I was even more surprised to find out that my dad loved it, because he's a big fan of Iron Man, but he's also, and he does love Captain America too. But he's also very like, they're funny. And he's a big fan of Guardians, the first one. So he likes a few, but he's not a diehard fan. And he's, again, at the end of the day, he just thinks they're fun superhero movies, but they're nothing special. He walked away saying that, oh god, I think this is the best Marvel film they've done yet. And hearing that from my dad after the first screening, that was just like, wow, this is definitely a big thing for Marvel, when they can make my own dad love this film.
The thing about it for me that is sort of like, it's a very difficult point to say, because this movie wouldn't have happened without all the other movies, but that's pretty obvious with the set out. So this movie is only good because the other ones are good as well.
Yeah, Marvel took a very big risk with this film, because it's backing on the fact that you've seen the previous histories. I mean,
it doesn't like help you out with any of the characters. It just sort of puts you right in there, which is good.
Yeah, it's a film that doesn't explain the history. It focuses primarily, again, as it was advertised, it focuses on Thanos and his story mostly, and it expects the audience to say, you know these characters, you know how they've been, you know how they've got to this point, so just enjoy the ride. And I think that's the best way you can handle a cinematic universe, especially when it comes to like the big team up Avenger flicks, because you've got the solo films that kind of set up the characters, give them their story, and when it comes to the Avengers, you've just got to have fun with them. There's got to be a good story, and there's got to be a good reason why it's happening. But you're primarily there to have fun, to see the action, to see these characters just make quips. Not all the time, but just interact.
Yeah.
That's the best way of saying
This
it.
one was surprisingly more quippy than I thought it would be, because I thought they'd go for very serious with this one, but luckily it had all the quips that, Marvel movies usually do, which I liked. I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad they didn't sort of stay away from that end of it.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised at that, but at the same time, it's the formula that they use and it works.
Yeah,
so
it's a good surprise.
Yeah. I'm still surprised they did not go for a Sherlock Holmes joke. Especially when you have two Sherlocks in the same movie.
I hope they do it in the next
screen
one.
time.
I hope they do it in the next one.
I don't know. I think I read somewhere that they intentionally didn't do that because they thought it was too of an easy joke.
Yeah. If in Captain Marvel, Jude Law's going to be Marvel. If he's in this one, and if what's his name, Martin Freeman is in it as General, or Ross, whatever his name is.
General Ross.
I don't think it's General. I think it's General Ross is the other guy. Something else. Everett.
Yeah,
something Ross.
Everett Ross.
Yeah. If they're both in it.
Character.
Oh yeah. If they're both in it, and both the Sherlocks are in it, they should definitely make it then. But I don't know if either of the Watsons are going to be in it.
Unlikely. I can imagine them maybe doing a behind the scenes gag where, like, you know how in the behind the scenes video of Thor Ragnarok where they have Jon.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, that's not behind the scenes. That was a clip they were going to add in it, but they just deleted it. That was hilarious.
Yeah. Sorry, that was just a little joke jab they did because Jon, the actor who played him, I can't remember his name. He was filming scenes for the Guardians of the Galaxy ride at Marvel.
Oh, right, that's
someplace.
Funny.
Someplace.
Yeah.
Where for a Guardians of the Galaxy attraction.
It's probably at Disney World.
Yeah, and he was on the set just filming those scenes, and he thought, you know what, they're filming 4 next door, might as well pop in and say hello, and they just kept that.
And then they did a scene, which was quite funny.
Yeah, and I can imagine them doing that for maybe like during behind the scenes thing for Avengers 4, where they just have Doctor Strange and Sherlock and Iron Man just doing their own thing, and then out of nowhere, Martin Freeman and Jude Law just come in and say, "Oh, hey, Sherlock, what's going on here?"
I really want a no shit Sherlock joke, but I don't think they will do that.
Oh, unlikely. And as I said, too of an easy joke, and I feel like they'd want to try some original quips or just do their own thing.
Yeah.
But hey, it would be nice. We can dream. But yeah. So going to my main point, because I think I don't even get this point across yet.
Yeah.
But I loved it. There's no other way of saying it. It was a film that lived up to my expectations. I loved the action. The character interactions were great. I loved the fact that we got to see Spider-Man take a big step with all the other characters and be part of the action with Thanos of all things.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Spider-Man's been through a rough history these past few years. And see him now.
Has he? No, he hasn't. He's been great. He's since he was in Civil War, it's been great. What do you mean? It's been a rough history. I guess before Civil War, yeah. But with Holland,
Spider-Man for it too.
Yeah, but with Holland as Spider-Man, he's been pretty good.
Ever since his appearance in Civil War, he's just been going great things. And to see him at this point now, where he's fighting a Titan in the Marvel MCU, it's so satisfying when you look at the rough history he's had leading up to that point. And I just feel like, I'm glad that Spider-Man's here now, and I'm glad that he's in this film.
Maybe one day we'll have the same thing with the Fantastic Four.
Oh, I hope so. I heard apparently Disney have made the agreement with Fox. They've all said yes.
Yeah, that's definitely happening. Well, they've definitely they've got the rights now.
Yeah, they just need to confirm it with the governments. Or
something.
No,
they've done that. They've done it. That's recently been done. So they have officially got Fantastic Four now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. God damn it! Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God! We can expect Fantastic Four in theaters 2020.
Well, hopefully.
Oh, I can bet you. I think the first one they would do would have to be Fantastic Four. Because that's the one that suffered the most. X-Men, I think, can wait a few years.
Well, yeah, because X-Men have got stuff coming out soon anyway, so I don't think they're going to do any. They're not going to recast them just yet.
oh yeah, we know that's gonna be shit, so they might reboot that in like 10 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
So give it time to rest, and then people say, here's the real X-Men. Here's what we really want. But yeah, overall, I loved Infinity War. I don't really have any big criticisms. Because honestly, I just feel like this is what I expected, this is what I came in for, and they delivered. So I'm just looking forward to what comes
I
next.
do have a criticism that I can think of off the top of my head. Oh no, I've got a couple actually.
Okay.
There were some moments in it which were expected that were quite boring and just sort of I didn't really care about the characters or I didn't care about what was happening, and that was the bit in Scotland. Not the entirety of that because it's very difficult for this because
the scenes with Scarlet Witch.
yeah, so Scarlet Witch and Vision in Scotland, I didn't really care about because I don't really care about. I don't. Elizabeth Olsen is great, but I don't think she's her like portrayal of Scarlet Witch is just kind of boring, and Vision is a robot. But there was a bit of that in that where Vision, who's a highly sophisticated AI intelligence made by a combination of Thor and Tony Stark and Bruce Banner and Ultron combined but he had a bit where he was a bumbling romantic. I'm like, what? Why? He's supposed to be like a sophisticated robot. Why is he like trying to be romantic? It was quite odd. It took me out of it for like a bit, like a moment, not completely, but it took me out of it for that specific bit. I was like, this is a bit odd.
Well, to be fair, they had kind of set that up with the season.
Oh yeah, I know they did that, but it did seem a bit odd that he was like, oh, he couldn't like say the words he was thinking. I'm like, he doesn't seem like the Vision. He just seems like Paul Bettany playing a different character. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't seem like the Vision in that specific bit.
I guess, but I honestly liked that scene because at the end of the day, Vision and Scarlet Witch, they are minor characters compared to the rest of the cast. In terms of like the big scheme of how these characters have gone, because at the end of the day, Scarlet Witch is just the other Avenger of the team, and she can again when she died. I didn't feel anything. I just there's going to be some more casualties. When Bucky died and when Groot died, I was like, wow. But when she died, it was like I expected her and Vision to be gone by the end of this film.
Yeah. Back to another criticism I had. The only sort of major thing that I had was the soundtrack to me, because I care about soundtracks a lot in movies. The soundtrack to me wasn't great. It wasn't bad by any stretch, but it wasn't like as good as it could have been. The only bits that sort of stood out were the bits of music that have already been written. So like the Avengers theme when Captain America came along, and that bit I want to get back to. That bit was great when Captain America came in for the first time. That was a great part of the scene. But the music in that was amazing. And the only other bit of music that stood out was when they went to Wakanda, and it was the Wakanda theme. But those two bits of music had already been written. The rest of the music in it was just sort of bland and generic. They didn't seem anything because it's such a big movie. There wasn't anything that stood out as being different and really good. Nothing really did that for me. But that's the only criticism I have.
I guess you could say that, and I can understand because I think it was talked about that apparently the MCU does like to reuse soundtracks a lot, but I don't know. I definitely thought the Thanos theme was very memorable. I mean, I remember every time I listened to that, I can remember replaying the scene of where he snaps the gauntlet when he gets the gauntlet, the last gem.
Yeah, no, but there wasn't any music in that bit. There was just sort of.
No, it was subtle. It was subtle.
No, it was sound. It was sound like that. That was fine, but that's not music. That's just that's just background noise.
It's background orchestra.
Yeah, that wasn't really music as such, but for the rest, see what I mean? Because if that's the bit that stood out to you, then the rest of it's not great. If it's just the quietness of it,
Honestly, yeah, but you don't need everything doesn't need to be perfect, and I expect that every movie has.
Oh yeah, but if that's my only criticism, then it's a pretty good movie.
Yeah. But and going back to that Vision thing, I can understand that, and I honestly I know I didn't have a problem with it because I do know in the comics that they do hook up, and I guess general audiences probably do know that or they don't know that.
Wait, what?
But you don't know that?
Wait, no, what are you talking about?
In the Marvel comics,
yeah.
Scarlet Witch and Vision get together.
Yeah. People know that. I know that happened, but it's just I don't want to get back to it. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I honestly, just touching back to that one quickly, I didn't mind it because they kind of set it up subtly with. I mean, as far back as their first appearance together in Age of Ultron, where they have that brief look at each other before he saves her. I kind of knew that from the moment that happened, that like, yeah, those two are going to hook up. But I feel like it was set up subtly enough where there was clearly an interest between the two, so it's not completely jarring up nowhere to say, oh, they're a couple now.
Oh no, I completely understood that they were supposed to be together, and it worked.
And honestly, I did like the scenes they shared, because, as you said, it's awkward to see a robot essentially stutter and have concerns about expressing his feelings, but at the same time, as you said, he's amalgamation of the greatest minds of two humans and an AI. So it makes sense there would be some level of shared knowledge and emotions passed on, and it does kind of add more character to him in terms of that. Oh, he can feel emotion, and again, it's not to bring up appearances here, but Paul Bettany is a good-looking guy, and it's nice to see in terms of a big blockbuster. It's nice to see the hot guy stutter. Because a lot of movies tend to have that scene where the guy leaves, has that moment. Because
Avengers isn't
it's trying to be awkward, but it's clearly not awkward because they're too hot. They're clearly too good.
Yeah, because the Avengers Infinity War is lack of hot guys, with literally every single character is played by that.
I'm not saying that, but Paul Bettany's got that. I think he's got that age to him where he looks older, but he's still young enough to have that charm to him, it's nice to see him in almost like a teen situation of stuttering over a crash.
Yeah, I agree that it's good to see that in movies, but in that specific character, it doesn't work because it definitely does work if there's a character like if the Vision is romantic, but not like it's very specific. When you see an advert for like aftershave and cologne, that sort of romantic stuff works for him because it's very sort of serious and like passionate, but sort of stumbling over his words doesn't seem like his character.
Whatever you believe. I'm not gonna lie, I can't be able to go more into that section because I don't really have much else to say with that bit. I just like the scene. I don't mind it, and yeah, I can't really think of anything else criticism wise. I just enjoyed the film. So I guess that can lead into the next thing, which is I think one of the other topics we were to discuss was, did it live up to your expectations? But we did kind of already discuss that. So going into our final part of the Avengers topic, what are your thoughts and expectations for Avengers 4?
So, Avengers 4, I have read up a synopsis of what it's going to be, but I'm not going to read out because I haven't got it to hand, and it might not be true. But the person who gave it, who released it, also released the synopsis for this movie, and it was completely accurate. So it's out there somewhere. The actual script.
It's a reliable source.
Yeah, it's a reliable source. So it's out. Like if you want to have a look, it's out there for if you want to read it. But I've read it. I've forgotten lots of things about it, and I'm not going to repeat it because I kind of want to forget because I don't want everything to be spoiled for me.
I do know some of it. Do you want me to say?
No, don't say it because spoilers. Major spoilers.
Think of our audience.
We could give what we think is going to happen, but don't say what might definitely happen because of what we read. Because that's but it's a spoiler, man. It's a big spoiler. I don't like spoilers.
Sport. Yeah. Okay. So in terms of what I can expect without getting into spoilers, I can expect the basic stuff to happen with a sequel following the storyline path of what we set up in Infinity War. So I expect that the final film is going to focus on those survivors, like the basics like Stark, Bucky, Steve, Hawkeye, Black Widow, those the people that we know from the first Avengers film. This film has got to be their big send-off. So we do know that they're going to be fun.
I think I've heard, this is a spoiler, but not specifically, 2 of the 6 are going to survive, definitely. That's what I've heard.
Oh.
Yeah. Wait, can you... hang on, never mind, continue.
But yeah, so go back to that briefly. Who do you think's going to hit the dust?
So I think... I heard I was watching a video that said that Iron Man should stay alive. Or maybe it was you. But it was... I think the people who are going to stay alive, me personally, is either Stark, Thor, and Bruce. So, Hulk. So they're the people I want to survive. The people I think will survive is probably going to be Black Widow and Hulk. I think those two are the people who are actually going to stay like alive by the end of it. But the reason I think Tony, the reason I saw that Tony should stay alive is that he was the very, very first person in this thingy, in Marvel Cinematic Universe. He was the first movie, and he's been in, I think, more than everyone else has, because he's been in all the Avengers movies. He's had his own trilogy, and he's been in Spider-Man, and he's been in Hulk as well.
He's the godfather.
Yeah, so he is the main sort of star, and if he goes, then it's sort of like the leader's gone, but there can be good reason for him to go. Is the fact that he is the leader, and then a new leadership and new people can come in and replace him. So that's why I think he will die.
Yeah, I feel like Marvel is adamant to continue this series going for another decade or so.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that they'd want to bring in new people, bring in new cast members, and they'd want to give the old ones a send-off without having to pull a Last Jedi and just upset fans and change them differently, or just make them disappear without an explanation. So it makes sense in that regard, and I think that it would, in my personal opinion, I think Stark should die. Because it makes sense for his character when you look at his journey. He's had his hero's journey. He's gone through his trilogy. He's had his subtle arc going through all the Avengers films, and it makes sense that he would give up his life to save the rest of the universe, to make things better. And the future Avengers going forward can look on in his name like Spider-Man and Black Widow, maybe Hulk. All those people who knew him can go on to say that, I knew him, he was a good man, he had his demons, but he got through it in the end, and he did the right thing. He was a true hero. I mean, even as in Infinity War itself, Steve says that Earth has just lost its mightiest Avenger. So that alone kind of gives you the idea that this is a man that everyone knows. So to have him die, in terms of in-universe and as a figure of the audience who people have watched for 10 years, it's a big shock to the audience, and it also gives you an idea that this is the end of an era. We've had three phases leading up to this, and now it's going to begin its next phase in a completely different setting.
With different leadership and different people.
Yeah, I'm adamant that Spider-Man, in some regards, will be going forward with this new mantle, because I can see...
yeah. Wait, the leader?
We're all expecting Captain Marvel to take over the Steve Rogers leader role of the Avengers.
That Doctor Strange will become the leader. But that, I guess that is biased opinion.
My personal headcanon is that he's going to become the leader of the Illuminati down the line. But I think that Captain Marvel is definitely going to be the new Steve Rogers going forward. But I can see Spider-Man, especially with the relationship he has with Tony Stark. I can imagine him when he comes of age being the next leader.
Yeah, I can't see the Spider-Man being the leader, but I think he's definitely going to stay on. But I don't think he's going to be leader, sort of candidate worthy, because he's still quite young.
We're definitely going to have to wait till Spider-Man 9 to get to that point.
Spider-Man 9?
Yeah, definitely. But you know that they're going to be continuing Spider-Man at least until Tom Holland is in his late 40s. If they can.
I don't know about that one, but they are going to try and continue it.
Oh, you never know. If it keeps making money, Sony's going to stick around, and if Marvel keep having ideas and they keep doing this series, they're going to want to use every character they can to the best of their abilities. And it makes sense that the reason they cast a young actor to begin with was because they wanted to keep them around for a long time. So it would make sense, story-wise and company-wise, to keep this kid around for the foreseeable future instead of just keeping him a teenager and then eventually killing him off like Ultimates did. So I think that... And again, they've got the setups already. He was tutored by Stark, the first big superhero unveiled to the world, when you don't count as Captain Marvel and Steve Rogers. But yeah, he's got that mantle of knowing Iron Man. So it makes sense that down the line he would also become a leader one day in the name of his mentor. And he's known the other superheroes. He's known the original Avengers. He will know the new Avengers going forward. So again, it's a perfect setup for a young kid to go through these experiences and become a leader out of it in the end, down the line, if they want to. Or if they can just stick with Doctor Strange or Captain Marvel if they want to.
Yeah, it might be both of the Doctor Strange and Captain Marvel will be both the leaders, like Iron Man and Tony. So Doctor Strange will take the role of Iron Man, and Captain Marvel will be Captain America.
Yeah, but I can see the potential for Spider-Man, and I hope that they take that chance. But going back to the main topic of the subject, I'm convinced that Stark has to die for, again, obvious reasons. I'd like to think that Steve wouldn't die. But
No, I think he's definitely going to die.
Yeah, his story has been told at this point. He's had his trilogy as well, and that's kind of had his sort of bookmark conclusion there. And they can go on and they can finally give Bucky the chance to don the armor. I feel like you've had 3 movies to tease that. You can't not do it now.
Yeah, this is true.
So I think it's adamant now that Steve and Stark are going to die. As for the others, I'd like to think that maybe Thor, Black Widow, and Hulk would survive. Because I can imagine them maybe pulling a twist saying, oh, 2 of them are going to die, but then there's a third. What am I saying? The 2 of them survive, but then there's a third that also survives. It's like, oh my god, he's alive. So, and I can imagine Thor sticking on maybe for a bit longer, and then maybe they could have a solo movie where they have him pass his mantle on to, I don't know, Jane Foster if she ever comes back.
I don't think she's coming back.
You know, they can maybe
Beta Ray Bill.
Yeah, Beta Ray Bill would be good. He was a teased in Ragnarok, so that'd be cool. But yeah, so
right,
back
to Hawkeye.
Yeah, the most
annoyingly
the most likable Avenger out there.
He's not bad.
Well, he's not bad, but he's not.
He's had his run.
He's not the others, and I feel like he's definitely gonna have some cool bits to do from what I've heard. I'll leave that to the audience's imaginations. At least just go to the rumor section. But I've heard he's gonna have some cool things to do, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. But I wouldn't be surprised if he kicked the bucket.
I reckon what they could do with Hawkeye is they could kill him off in Avengers 4, but he could still technically be in the next in the Black Widow movie because that's going to be pretty cool.
You know, that's the thing that I feel like. Again, just on my main subject off my chest, I think the ones that have to survive would be Black Widow and Hulk, maybe Thor as well, because I know they're going to do, well, at least I think they're going to do the Black Widow movie as a prequel, but I think going forward it would make sense to keep her around and have her maybe have a trilogy.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm just saying for Hawkeye, they could kill him off and then he could be back in the old one.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of like the old saying of, oh, you have characters that witness God's power, or when these powerful beings go on this journey with them, and when the gods die, they are left to tell the stories to their generations going forward. Again, I don't know where I'm going with that, but I feel like it would make sense for the mortal characters to survive and have the godly characters that you think would outlive them be the ones to perish, saving the world. And I think Black Widow would be an obvious candidate for that, and I think Hulk in general would have to survive because it's a missed opportunity if they don't have him and Wolverine clash at one point. And now that they've got the X-Men, it would make sense to at some point have them meet up maybe in Canada and just have a brawl out.
Sure.
I mean, I saw some concept art from a fan recently on what would it be like if Logan from the Logan film fought Hulk, and it looks so cool, and I feel like, why couldn't this be a thing? But yeah, I'm glad it isn't a thing, because it means down the line we can hopefully have it in some form. But yeah, I feel like Black Widow is the more candidate to survive this, and I'd like to think that Hulk and maybe Thor could survive too. The others are guaranteed to die.
I think,
or at the very least, I feel like Hawkeye, if they had to keep him alive, I think he would likely retire for good.
Yeah.
At this point, because I feel like the death of your friends is definitely something that would be a big motivator to want to. I'm done with this. I can't give any more special services. I've got to be there for my family. So I feel like that would have to be the end for Hawkeye at this point, whether he dies or not. But I'm confident that Iron Man and Captain America are down for, and it makes sense.
Oh, I forgot to say that in our sort of speculation and what we want to see in the next in Avengers 4, all of the characters are going to be resurrected by the end. I forgot to say that.
That's obvious, but I'd be curious to see how they resurrect them, because we know. Again, I won't go into leaks or spoilers.
Probably time stone.
Yeah, some people think that it's going to be time travel. I heard somewhere recently that people think it's not going to be time travel, but apparently memories, where they just travel back through their memories and they can somehow alter it due to their makeshift Infinity Gauntlet or something.
That's like in what's that movie? X-Men, Days of Future Past, where they go back in his head rather than time travel, and then he just changes the past. Something like that.
I guess that's kind of different. But
they need to get Ellen Page back to be the same character again, so she can make Tony go back in his head.
Yeah, out of nowhere. Who are you? We're the X-Men. Where have you been all this time? We've been here all this time. You just don't know it.
We've been making shit movies. Except First Class, that was alright.
Yeah, I like that. I like First Class, and I do kind of like Days of Future Past. But everything outside of those two and Logan and X-Men 2, everything else has just been shit there. Except for Deadpool.
But don't go into it. We're not talking about that today.
Yeah, another day, another podcast. But in short, we can't really say much else out of spoilers again because Harry hates spoilers.
Hello.
but from what I can say, I'm expecting everyone who's died to be back by the end. I'm expecting half of the main cast from the first Avengers to be dead by the end, and maybe I'd like to think Black Widow and Thor and Hulk would survive and continue one from their own stories. That's all I really have to say.
Do you think that any of the side Avengers are gonna die, like any of the Guardians or like War Machine? Do you think any of them are gonna die?
I think the Guardians would survive because again they've got their own solo movie to have their own closure. So I think that would have their. I think they would be guaranteed to live. Again, and in terms of like Scarlet Witch, I did hear one fan theory a while back where they thought that if she survives these two Avengers films, she could go on to become Doctor Strange's assistant.
I really want that to happen.
That does kind of happen in the comics at some point, and if we do get the inclusion of the X-Men coming forward, and they can reveal that maybe she was a mutant all along, she was just the stone just gave her powers and locked them earlier. Again, that opens up new storytelling ideas for her, and it can also open up to the House of M storyline down the road. And I think it would be a wasted opportunity to not have more characters. Again, going into what they said when they announced Spider-Man: Homecoming with Robert Downey Jr. being a prominent character, they said a lot more films would going forward be having a lot more crossovers involved. So I think it would make sense to have Doctor Strange to have the sorcerer character teach a sorcerer.
Yeah, because someone said, I think it might have been Kevin Feige. He said that what's the point of having all these characters in the universe if they're each going to have one individual movie when they're only one person in it? He said, what's the point of that? So hopefully there'll be loads. But he also said, a different like interview to this, that Scarlet Witch's powers are confirmed to be what Doctor Strange can use, but because he learned how to use his, that's why hers are all sort of mystical and like wavy, that rather than actual like shapes. But it's exactly the same. It's just hers are unfocused. I think the word he used, which is quite interesting.
So yeah, I'd like to think that could happen down the line if they take the chance. And we do know that Mara Hill will be appearing in Spider-Man 2, Far From Home. So again, it's on the table.
Wait, who's going to be in what?
Crossovers. Mara Hill. She was like the recurring agent.
What? Yeah. What's her name?
I can't remember the name.
Yeah.
I just know that her she was cast as Wonder Woman for a time.
How I Met Your Mother. Kobe Schmelders.
Yes, I think. Yeah. Kobe Schmelders.
She. Oh, that's alright. I like her.
Yeah, she and apparently Nick Fury might be in the film. Well, we know she is, but apparently Nick Fury has been spotted on set.
But he's dead. How does he come back if he's dead?
Because spoilers. But yeah, going back to, I guess, we keep losing ourselves. But I guess to close off the Avengers topic, I'm confident. I enjoyed it. It lived up to the hype, and in terms of what I can expect going forward, I can expect good things, and I hope they can deliver a good payoff. And I'm confident they'll deliver something that we'll enjoy. I just hope they can keep up the hype and the excitement that we got in the first film and pay it all off in a good way that makes us feel like, yeah, this is the end. Let's look to the future and see what's going forward.
I don't think Marvel at this point are going to make a bad movie. I hope that they've got to a point where every movie they make now, because they've got so many people doing it and so many people who are actually really enthusiastic with this project. Like with Marvel, there's so many people who would just love it that they can't make a bad movie at this point. Like how DC, most of their movies are crap because none of the people who make them are into like DC. They don't like, or they sort of, it's more corporate stuff where the studio get involved. The studio are less involved with Marvel, which is actually better for Marvel. It makes them better movies because, like, specifically with Taika Waititi and Ragnarok, the studio was not much involved with that, and that was a great movie. So hopefully they could do the same sort of stuff to that going on.
The big problem with other studios is, especially with DC, is that they tried to copy Marvel. And again, Kevin Feige brought this up in an interview as well, where he said, "Just don't try it. You don't have to do it. Just do good movies, because that's what they set out to do." And I think James Gunn also said in the DVD commentary for Avengers 3, that people think we had this grand plan from the beginning, or at least we had a idea of what to do when the first Avengers came out. We didn't. We were just winging it as it went until we got a good idea of where to go. I mean, and that even shows in the films. I mean, if you watch the first Avengers film, it's clear they're setting up the storyline where Thanos is infatuated with death, but when you finally meet him in Infinity War, it's clear that's not his motivation for wanting the gauntlet and wanting to fight the Avengers. So there was always signs that this was always intended to be something, but not set in stone from the beginning. But you can tell they also tried to make it work.
Yeah, like rather than it being like a planned storyline, they sort of opened it up for possible other movies, but not necessarily having to do it.
Yeah, and Marvel, again, as you said, Marvel is clearly made by a team of people and fans that love what they're doing, and they focus on that, not just in terms of the actors, the casts, and the directors, and so on. They look for people who clearly have experience in it and know what they're doing and know what they're expecting from the audience. Because again, going into Star Wars territory here, the problem they have with the new films is that they're trying to do their own thing, but they're also ignoring a lot of the criticisms because they're pushing their agendas, and it's backfiring with them because people are not happy with how they're representing their franchise that they love. And DC kind of have the same thing where they try to do their own thing, and they think that because they've got these characters, because they've got Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman, people won't hate it. But because the films were so lackluster, mostly bad, especially when it came to BVS, and maybe a bit Suicide Squad as well, people just didn't like it, and they just felt like, we can't put up with this if you're going to keep doing this year after year. And Justice League was the pinnacle point of that when it failed. So Marvel they figured out their formula, they know what works, and I feel like they can go forward with a good movie, because again, I think the last bad movie they had was Iron Man 2, and even that's not...
I like Iron Man 2.
Yeah, it's clearly just a film that's setting up the Avengers, but it's also having fun, and it's not trying to be an advertisement for, here's the next 6 movies.
The only one Marvel movie I don't like is Hulk, but I don't count that as a Marvel, like as an MCU movie, because
I like that movie.
I really don't like it. But the only thing for me that sort of makes it actually part of Marvel is that Iron Man's in it and Ross is in it, but because Ross comes back at the end. But the sort of, because it's quite old, it doesn't feel to me like a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. It just feels like a crappy Hulk movie. But
hey, at least it's better than Ang Lee's Hulk.
Yeah. Well.
But I feel like I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with the series going forward, and I hope they continue to do good. Because again, with recent reports about James Gunn being fired, who knows? They could take a drastic turn. But I'd like to think that I have confidence that Marvel will have an idea of what to do if things like this would happen, and I just hope that they can just steer themselves in the right direction. So, talking about that, we can now finish off to our final topic: Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Yay! This is my favourite topic.
Regarding Harry Potter. Yeah, I knew you'd love this one. So, to give some audience some context, what's your brief history of Harry Potter? Right,
so for as long as I can remember, I've been a Harry Potter fan. Like, there's pictures of me when I was a wee little boy dressed up as Harry Potter, and, you know, I've had the books since I had the books since before I was born, to be honest, because I've got the first book, and that was 1997, and I'm 99. I'm not 99, I was born then. So I've got those books, and in the first book, actually, it has it says Property of Harry Clark in year 9. Oh, you're year 5. So that's how long I've been into Harry Potter. But I've read had the audiobooks for Harry Potter, so they've like the books have been prominent in my sort of life rather than just the movies. But as soon as the movies came out, I saw every single one of them. I think after 3, because I was a bit young then. After 3, I saw every single one in cinema a couple of times, as you do. And since Fantastic Beasts has come out, I've seen that loads of times in the movies, and I've got that on DVD and Blu-ray, and like in the sort of special editions. But yeah, Harry Potter's always been a prominent part of my life. And not to give too much of my personal life away, I work in a Harry Potter related job, which is quite nice.
I solemnly swear I am not no good.
Hang on.
But yeah.
Hang on, wait. Go ahead.
Yeah. And as for me, I can't really remember a time where I didn't know Harry Potter. Because in regards to my childhood growing up with it, I had toy wands, I had the fake glasses and the Philosopher's Stone prop, the toy one for kids, of course, the plastic one. But I remember mostly watching the films. I grew up listening to the audiobooks by Stephen Fry.
Yeah, they were bloody amazing.
They were my go-to bedtime stories to listen to after. Even when I think during my early years of high school, I still listened to them because they were just a lot of fun and less reading. But I always did grow up mostly with the films, especially when I started seeing them in theatres. Because my earliest memory of the films is watching Prisoner of Azkaban on VHS, and I do remember seeing billboards advertising Order of the Phoenix when it came out. But I think the first film I remember going to with my family was Half-Blood Prince. They have said that they took me to see like Chamber of Secrets.
I think we've been to see Goblet of Fire before. I think I remember a memory with me, you, and your brother.
Yeah, I think we did, but the earliest memory that I can think of at the moment is seeing Half-Blood Prince in theatres with my parents, and I subsequently saw the last two films with them as well. Because again, at the time, it felt like a big event, like, oh, this is the end, we should see this as a family.
Mm.
And I can remember you saw it the previous day, and you literally came into our house to visit, and the first thing you told us was that Dobby dies.
Yeah,
so even though
that's why I don't like spoilers anymore.
Point that bit, so you pretty much spoiled it for me.
Sorry.
Oh, damn you! Filthy little mudblood.
How dare you!
But yeah, I grew up a lot with Harry Potter as well. Equally, I wouldn't say I'm a mega fan. Because again, I can't quite. Yeah. You're the mega Harry Potter fan. I'm the Doctor Who fan.
Yeah.
We're perfect for each other. But
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I grew up with it just as much as you did, but I don't retain it as much in terms of a high standard because it's just a good film series in my opinion. It's a good book series, and it's something that's memorable, and I can look back on it 2 years to come and enjoy it. And I can remember leading up to the final film because I saw part 1 of Deathly Hallows before I read the book, and during like the 6 to 7 months wait for the next film to come out, I got impatient to find out what happened next. So I just picked up the final book because I didn't have the Half-Blood Prince or Deathly Hallows on the audios, so I just had to read the final book, and I just thought, you know what, I want to find out what happens next, so I'll read the book. And in the 6 months waiting for the final film to come out, I found out exactly what happened, and I thought, wow, so this is the ending. How are they going to pull it off?
Did they do it?
Well, they could. They did their best. But I was disappointed that they missed out a lot of the stuff that was also good. I mean, even in like when you look back at Half-Blood Prince, the fact that they don't have that scene where Ginny just makes a comment about how Harry has a hippogriff tattooed on his chest, and then it spins off into a joke of, oh, one's got one there too. I didn't say where. It's a funny joke, and in context it could be good on film, but in the films they just relegate it to a small scene in Deathly Hallows Part 1 where Ron, disguised as Harry, says, see, told you Ginny was lying about that tattoo. So fans get it, but you don't get the full context of it, and that's disappointing. And I feel like Deathly Hallows Part 2 had a lot of potential to have some of those smaller moments stand out and be cool, and they didn't do that, which is a shame. But for what it was, for a big film that was meant to close off a full series that was made by different directors and jumbled a big cast, I think they did good. And hey, it gave us the Fantastic Beasts films, which I'm happy about. So this can segue into the next part of our topic, which of course is the main topic really, to begin with. Our thoughts on Fantastic Beasts. So, you're the big Harry Potter fan here. What was your thoughts when you first heard about it and saw the film?
So when it was first announced that they're doing a Harry Potter spin-off, I was over the moon. I was so excited. I was like, the more Harry Potter and the more Wizarding World stuff we get, the better, because it's, my entire life. But the thing I was looking most forward to be honest, was not the Fantastic Beasts, was like just spells and wand casting, that sort of stuff, because that's the sort of stuff I like. But yeah, leading up to it, watching the trailers, I was mega excited. I saw it first the day it came out in IMAX, and my opinion on it is I don't think they're better than. I don't think the Fantastic Beasts is better than the original movies. So, my main sort of reason for this is because I saw it in the cinema and I loved it, but then the second time I watched it, I was slightly bored. About halfway into it, I just got bored, which I've never ever been bored rewatching a Harry Potter movie. I've always been excited and maybe not excited, but I've always been entertained throughout Harry Potter, rewatching them over and over and over again. But I didn't have that with this.
I can counter that. I pretty much slept at one point through rewatching Half-Blood Prince at one point.
Yeah, so
yeah,
I don't think they're better than Harry Potter, but I don't think that it's bad. I really do like it. I've heard lots of people saying that they don't like Fantastic Beasts, but I think it's good. I don't think it's Harry Potter level yet, but you never know. The next one might be really good.
Yeah, I feel like for what it was, when I first heard they were announcing a spin-off and it was going to be based on Newt Scamander, I was surprised, but at the same time it makes sense because you want to focus on something new, which is expanding the Wizarding World, and not have the spin-off be about Dobby in his early years, because that'd just be depressing.
Yeah.
But it would make sense, so I wasn't expecting them to be... I guess what took me by surprise was the fact that they were going to do 5 films, because I think they originally announced it was going to be just a trilogy, and from what the title suggested, you expected it to be a film series just about exploring the Wizarding World, maybe having a small story arc that connected to the overall thing later on in the films, but mostly it was just going to be about Newt finding rare creatures that we can think of that are cool callbacks to the books and the films. But when you find out that Grindelwald's going to be in the movie and Dumbledore will be in the movie at some point, and there's going to be 5 films, it's going to be about the big Wizarding War, the first Wizarding War that leads up to the eventual events with the first Harry Potter and how Dumbledore became the headmaster and how we got the Elder Wand. And you feel like, are you sure this is the right thing you should be doing with the Fantastic Beasts brand? And with what they did, I enjoyed it because it did sell itself as being a film about Fantastic Beasts and finding them.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's exactly what I thought. Because when I first heard what it was going to be about, it's going to be about one of the textbooks that Harry reads, and you can actually read it before, yourself before you go to see it. And I thought it was literally going to be, it's going to be Newt and a partner going around different locations looking for beasts, but it turned out to be a story about that had the beasts in it, but it wasn't necessarily about them. They were in it, but bit of a misleading title.
Wouldn't you love it if that partner turned out to be Newt Scamander was actually a ghost and he was telling this story to Harry's kids at Hogwarts? I
thought a way that I had that the end of it could be where it could be sort of lead into Harry Potter is if the back of most books they've got a picture of the author. I thought it'd be cool if they had a sort of a scene where Newt was getting his picture done and then it sort of zoomed out from that and it was the book and it was the heads of Harry, Ron, and Hermione reading it or something like that. But I didn't think it necessarily had to be just a narrated thingy.
I originally imagined when the first film came out that they would pull a Frodo Baggins scene in from The Hobbit, where they'd have the book. As you said, the film would end with Newt getting a picture taken, and it would zoom out to one of his kids reading the books on the train or something, and then it zooms out to the kids just talking about the story of Newt Scamander, and they can wave at the window, and it's their parents from the ending of Deathly Hallows Part 1.
Yeah.
So they don't have to use the actors again. But I would like there to be maybe they could do something similar where in the final film they have a similar thing happen, but Newt's at an advanced age, he's a ghost at this point maybe, and he's I'd say signing copies, but he's a ghost. He wouldn't do that. I
think Newt Scamander's just really old when the times the Harry Potter movies happen because he's on he's on the Marauders map. Yeah, he's on the Marauders map in the third one. So I think he's still alive, which is a very, very old man, sort of like Nicholas Flamel, in a sort of way that he's not that he's invincible, but he's just very old.
So he's not a ghost.
Hmm?
So he's not a ghost.
No, I don't think he's a ghost now.
Okay. But yeah, so yeah, if in this case, if he's an old man, he could be selling books at a bookstore or something, and Harry Potter and his kids and his wife could just come in and talk about it, and the kids could say, "Oh, I heard about this and this. Is this true?"
Oh yeah,
And
well, I think by the
have a
time
little
Harry's an
cheeky
old
smile
man,
and just
then
he can be an old man, but that doesn't mean he can still have that little wonder to him. Because again, even from the beginning, when they first gave the first photos for the film, I kind of felt like he feels very Matt Smithish.
the whole plot of the first movie was it could be a Doctor Who episode because it is a man
Yeah.
with a bow tie, a long coat, a floppy haircut, with a
whimsical aspect,
stick,
yeah.
with a stick that could do anything like a screwdriver, and he's got a box that's bigger on the inside. I mean, if that's not Doctor Who, then I don't know what is.
Finally, the Americans made their own version of Doctor Who, and it was okay.
I mean, it was very British. Fantastic Beasts was made in England. Like they never did any like on-set location stuff for Fantastic Beasts. They never actually went to New York to film anything.
Overall, in regards to that topic, I enjoyed Fantastic Beasts for what it was. It has its flaws, and I can remember at the time feeling very skeptical about Johnny Depp with the allegations.
Yeah, I thought
And
he was going to be
even now-
recast for the next one.
Yeah, and even now, I feel like there's some risks to it. And when you look at his work recently, especially with like the Pirates of the Caribbean films, which was his big name thing, I think, to see how he's gone downhill from that. Have you seen Dead Men Tell No Tales?
I haven't. I haven't seen any of the movies recently. Is it good?
People hoping that film was going to be the first good one since World's End, they were so let down. Johnny Depp is foaming it in so much in that film, and at this point, even the writers don't give a shit because they clearly forget about plot points set up 2 movies ago, and you just feel like, why? This is not what came before, and even the interactions too, because they talk about how your old friend Elizabeth, how's she doing, and he just goes like immediately, he's like a creepy stalker, like, oh, how is she? Does she still think of me? You're like, oh, come on, you guys were good friends by the end of 3. Why? That entire film is just disappointing and a waste of potential, especially because the title itself is warranting alone to get exciting. It's based off the most famous quote from the ride, so you think they do a good story and bring it back to fruition and make the series interesting again and make people want to do more and see more of these characters. But I'm still surprised they're going to be going for a 6-1.
Save all this for the Pirates episode. I think that's what you need that for.
yeah, we're doing that a lot. We're getting off topic. And we're talking about stuff that's going to be talked later on in the series.
And I'm always like, oh, rein it in. Wait for the next episode.
But yeah, I feel like Johnny Depp's just been on a downward trend in recent years, and there's concerns. The recent trailers have given me a bit of hope.
Nah, thing is right. His one scene in the last movie was really odd. Like it wasn't good odd. It was just like, okay, I guess that's him. And also in the trailer, he's just speaking with the American accent, but the character I think is Danish or like the character is European, and he's not being the character. He's just doing himself doing weird stuff. I think they cast him for his namesake rather than his acting ability, because he always plays a weird, creepy character, and I think that's what they were going for, even though that's not the character that they need. Because Grindelwald isn't like I mean, we don't know because we just heard stuff about it. I don't think Grindelwald was like a creepy, weird guy. He was more like a sort of romantic, sort of evil villain person. But
I just feel like he would be Voldemort, but with emotions. So he has that advantage to manipulate people close to him, or people.
He's Voldemort with hair and a nose.
Yeah, he's Voldemort during his goth years. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm iffy on the series going forward because there's potential, but at the same time, I find it hard to believe they're going to be dragging out the first Wizarding War storyline for 5 films in a row.
But with that,
especially when it's meant to be advertised as Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah, but with that going on, I do like the fact that we're going to get loads of movies. Like usually, I'm like, just rein it in. We don't need like with Transformers. Like we don't need too many Transformers or like Fast and Furious. We don't need any. They're crap. Just stop. But with this, it's Harry Potter, so I'm like, I kind of like that. There's going to be loads of them, even if they are not great. I just like being in the world of Harry Potter.
Yeah, I can understand that, but I just feel like, from a marketing standpoint, this was set up to be the story of Fantastic Beasts and Newt Scamander. But I think by the end of it, people are just going to remember it for being the story of Dumbledore and his war against his former lover and during the First Great Wizarding War. And when there were some magical beasts along the way.
Yeah, I think that's why that's why Newt's in it. It's because he's going to be the main character, but they're going to sort of focus it around that story.
Yeah, and I feel like they should have, if they were going to do that, I think they should have tried to make that. They should have made that more obvious by the first film, because I feel like it's going to be quite jarring for some people going into the second film with the idea that so this is the story now. It's not going to be a fun adventure of going across the world finding magical monsters. It's going to be about this war. And I'm good. I'm happy for that. I'm glad to see that the series will be going forward, continuing on the story that gives us more context to the bigger world of Potter. But in terms of a marketing standpoint, I feel like you should have set this up with the first film if you were going to do that route. Because again, going back to my thoughts, I assumed it was going to be a trilogy, or at the very least a few films of just giving us more context to the bigger world, but primarily being a fun series of films about magic and monsters and create things that we can see more of.
Or like elaborating more on stuff we've heard about in Harry Potter.
Yeah, I mean, I would love them to do a film where they center a lot on the sea. So maybe we can see more of the culture of the mer people and see maybe Newt interact with some sea creatures and sea monsters. I mean, the story of Newt Scamander going into the Bermuda Triangle, that would be a great story. I think
there is going to be a bit of underwater stuff in this one, because you see Newt riding a creature.
From the shots
I forgot the name
shown, I can't remember either, but I feel like from the shots they've shown, I feel like that's just going to be like a segment in like one of the many traps. Because we see in the trailer at one point that Newt is going through like an archway of something that's moving, or it's going through something that's moving, and you kind of feel like that's going to be the same thing when they sneak through the Ministry and Deathly Hallows, where they're trying to get their way through these mazes to get to the target, and I feel like that's just going to be a segment in that scene. But again, I would love to see a full movie or half of a movie dedicated to a segment going through the undersea side of the Wizarding World.
That's very specific. I think the only person I've heard that wants to see that. But
yeah, I think the Goblet of Fire definitely left an impression for me, because I remember being terrified of the merpeople for the first time, and even the crappy video game that came along with the DVD of Goblet of Fire. I can remember that scene where if you don't move at the right point, you get eaten by Victor Crumb as a shark. And I remember that just terrifying me.
That's not canonical at all. Victor Crumb's not going to eat anyone.
Of course it's not. It's meant to just scare the audience.
No, I think I did play that. That was pretty fun, actually.
But yeah, I can remember that being scary, and I just remember I'd love to see more of that.
Yeah. Sorry.
I guess you're getting tired of your end. Which is good for us to end the segment with our final topic. What would you like to see from the series going forward with the next few sequels?
So after Crimes of Grindelwald?
Yeah, I've kind of already touched upon my one.
Yeah.
But what about you? What would you like to see the series do?
So if they aren't going to brush on it on this one, I'd want to see more of Dumbledore's past. All the stuff we actually know about, but elaborated more on, because Dumbledore's past was sort of very sort of depressing, where his sister was bullied into doing some magic, but she couldn't, and then she was just bullied until I think it was quoted, the magic sort of exploded out of her, and then his dad killed Dumbledore's dad killed a bunch of Muggles because they were bullying her. So his dad went to prison, and they had to move, or his dad didn't, or they had to flee or something like that, and then Grindelwald got involved because he wanted so the thing that people think that's going to happen is that Dumbledore's sister Ariana is going to be an Obscurial or Obscurus, Credence.
I think it's an Obscurus.
Yeah, Obscurus, like Credence is. So the magic sort of a very, very dark, powerful thing happens, and that's why Grindelwald's involved. But we don't know the specifics of that. So that's the sort of stuff I want to learn about and see, is the actual Grindelwald manipulating Dumbledore and seeing what actually happens to his sister, and then how the conflict ends. And I think we're definitely going to see how it ends in this, because they have to sort of kill off the villain, don't they? But I want to see how it started as well as concluded. But that's the sort of stuff I want to know about in Fantastic Beasts, and that's because that's the time period they're sort of setting it at. Oh, actually, there are some other things, but do you want to comment on that before I get to them?
Yeah, I can definitely see that being touched upon in this film and maybe explored in the film, whichever they're going to do that has that big ending fight with them. But I feel like that's easy baiting, because I think for audiences that know the films, know the books, we expect that storyline to come to fruition. So I'm expecting them to do that, really.
Yeah.
So I would like them to maybe, going forward, I would like them to give us some, again, branch out the Wizarding World, because I feel like we know that the new film's going to be set mostly in Paris. There will be some scenes in London expected, and it's nice to be seeing London again, thank you. But I feel like if they want to keep the series going, and if they want to bring some new freshness to it, I think they need to go beyond the cities. They need to, as I said, they need to go to the sea. They need to go to the Amazon. Maybe have one where they go to Alaska and fight some ice dragons. Again, I feel like there's so many potentials you can do with the concept of fantastic beasts and where to find them. So I feel like if they play their cards right and they stick with let's keep moving forward, let's do something else. Let's not just try being tied down to this one storyline and draw it out. Because the one thing I would hate for them to do is to be a case where they have every cast member from this film and the next film in every single film and try and have every film be connected, because I feel like that wouldn't work. So I feel like if they do that, they run a risk of it being drawn out, and people will start getting to the point where they feel like, why? How is this relevant? So this is what happened? This wasn't talked about. This wasn't canon. This wasn't explained. I just feel like what they should do is they should at least have a trilogy of films in whatever order you think, focusing on the Grindelwald storyline, and they can maybe have two or three out of the other films of how many others they want to do, focusing on exploring the world in general. Again, go fight ice dragons, explore Alaska, give us different settings that we've never seen in a Harry Potter film before, and just again branch out the world and give us something new. Because I feel like if they're going to just focus on the Grindelwald stuff, it's going to get, again, risk with Johnny Depp, because you don't know if he's going to be good or not, so you're going to be tied to that for 5 films, and if this continues, if bad stuff continues happening with him, you're going to run the risk of losing your franchise, kind of like with, I hate to put up this as an example, but yeah, with James Gunn, with what's happened to him recently, so we don't know what that state's going to be with them in. So you kind of don't want to risk damaging the brand with the actors, the characters, or the story directions. So I think it would make sense for them to branch out and do some different stuff. What do you think?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean with the different stuff. So I think what you said, they should definitely do Grindelwald stuff first, and then as they've sort of gotten used to, being in the world but without Harry Potter in it, they can then branch off and do the extra stuff that is different to what we've actually seen. Because I think that's what they wanted to do originally, but we're keeping some nostalgia stuff in it, like Dumbledore's in it now, but they should sort of go away from that after they've concluded the Grindelwald saga, I'll call it, and then go on to different interesting stuff that we can explain or explore the world that we know about, but give us a bit more detail rather than with the creatures. I mean, not with the story stuff. But there is one
story stuff too.
Yeah, exactly. There is one story related thing that I do think that they should touch on in Fantastic Beasts. So, in the first Harry Potter, the Philosopher's Stone, as some people call it in England, or the Sorcerer's Stone in America. So, in that, Hagrid says that he gets. Oh no, sorry, not that one. In the Chamber of Secrets, he says that he gets Aragog from a traveller who gives him to him as an egg, and I think. And many other people think that traveller is Newt, and I'd really like to see an older Newt talking to a younger Hagrid, sort of making him. And I guess that's another reason that Hagrid's into animal creatures and stuff, is because he was introduced by Newt, and he was given Aragog as a present or something like that. So that's the sort of stuff I want to see.
Yeah, I could just imagine now, for my head canon, maybe in the 3rd or 4th film. After Newt's been on an adventure, with maybe a hippogriff, he can then have a scene where he's signing something. He's at a book signing event, and he meets a young Hagrid, and he gives him a copy and says, "Oh, so you like magical creatures? Stick to them, kid. I think you'll do fine." And then he can maybe have a scene in a later film, or even in the same film, where he flash forwards to a few years before the events of the Potter series, and Newt's an older man, and he gives Aragog to Hagrid. I'd like that.
Wait, Hagrid gets given him in his 3rd year of Hogwarts.
Yeah, so it's yeah. Again, I feel like that could maybe tie into the film as well.
And it also
That's
it
kind
does
of stuff I'd like to happen. They do the films that you think are self-contained, but they have a tie to the Potter series in the subtle ways. So again, I would love if a film was to center on Newt going up against giant spiders and being saved by a hippogriff. Again, that could be a nice.
You keep saying hippogriff. It's hippogriff. There's no T at the end.
Hippogriff.
There you go.
Is that? Oh, good. Thank you. Thanks for the grammar. But yeah, I think if they can do that for a movie where it's doing its own story, but it has those tiny ties to the bigger story and the later films, and it can end with that little tie there going, oh, here's Hagrid, here's Aragog, and they can end it there. That'd be a good story to tell.
And the Hagrid sort of stuff does work time-wise because the first movie is set on the year that Voldemort is born, and the year Voldemort is born is also the year that Hagrid is born because they're in the same year at Hogwarts, aren't they? I think.
Yeah.
So that time-wise it makes sense, but I've heard I think Super Carlin Brothers, they talk a lot about how I think that they think that Hagrid is actually going to be a big plot point in the Fantastic series because Hagrid's going to help, Newt, Hagrid, and Dumbledore is going to help defeat Grindelwald. I think that's in a very sort of way. That's what I've heard. Maybe not defeat Grindelwald, but in a very sort of way, that's what's going to happen. And Hagrid's going to be in it, and he's going to help with something at some point. Not necessarily Grindelwald, but he's going to be a big point in it. But I can't remember the specifics that they've found out, but it's pretty cool.
I can't really imagine that. I mean, I feel like Dumbledore and the bigger, higher up wizards were the kind of people that they could get away with doing in the films. But I feel like if they were to have Hagrid being a central character, I think that'd be a bit of a stretch, especially when you can take into consideration later films that he doesn't bring any of that up, even in the books. Because I feel like it would be one of his big pride and joy to say, "Oh, I met Newt Scamander and I went on this adventure with him." So I feel like, in terms of keeping it the canon,
maybe that's why Hagrid's an alcoholic.
Well,
because he just wants to forget
the entire thing. Well, he dreams about it. I dreamed that I had an adventure with Newt Scamander. You did, dude. You went to Egypt and everything. I did. Oh, it reminds me of.
Or he just forgets because he's drunk all the time. Yeah. He's like, I want to forget what happened.
Oh, you poor sod. But yeah, I don't know about that. I feel like Hagrid is a character that's best deserved for a minor character. I mean, again, he's got a lot to do in the books, and it's a shame that they weren't able to do a lot of that in the films. But overall, I think Hagrid isn't a character that I think we need to have a lot centered on. I think they need to just stick with Newt and his gang and have the story told, and maybe have some ties and occasional characters come in that we would say, "Oh, I know that character. I remember that character. Oh, so that character is going to become this in the next few years." So I feel like if they try to make it too intertwined, it's going to become confusing, and in worst case, it will contradict later films and make it confusing. But yeah. So is that all you have to say about the sequel ideas?
As of now, yes, that is my conclusion.
Well, overall, I think a good selection choice today, and I'm not gonna. I feel like I've said everything I have to say, and I've enjoyed it. So, thank you for listening, everyone. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast, and I hope it was to your interests. And if you want to see more, by all means, please like the video and subscribe if you'd like to see more from this channel. I have been Kobi.
And I have been Harry.
And thank you for joining us tonight for the first episode of Grey Owl Entertainment. Thank you for joining us tonight, and we will see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Goodbye.